Okay, good morning. We're on 85A, and we'll start the Mishnah. Ein mivin lo midbes zvalim, v'lo midbes hashlachim, v'lo midbes ilan. You don't take grain that was grown for menachos. We don't take grain that was grown in a fertilized field or an irrigated field or a tree, an orchard. Vim heavy, but if you did, kasher, it's still okay. Quesadillosa. So how do you prepare, like, what's the best kind of land for producing flour for melachos, wheat for the flour? Nara Shana Rishana, you plow it the first year, but don't plant anything. V'shana Shni Azara, in the second year you plant it. Kodam l'Pesach Shivim Yom. When do you plant it? 70 days before Pesach. V'hu osa solos meruba. Then you'll get a lot of good flour from the wheat. Kesad bodek. How do you check the flour to see if it's ready, if it's sufficiently sifted? Hagizbar machnis l'tochan, the treasurer, the guy in charge, I guess, puts his hand in the flour. And if dust comes up in your hand, sticks to your hand, psula, then it's not good yet. Actually, it's not found. You have to sift it again. Vim hislia, and if it becomes wormy, if the flour becomes wormy, psula, then it is no good. Okay, so now the Gemara is going to investigate a little further the details of the Mishnah. Okay, so how do you do it? Says the Mishnah. Nara Shana Rishana, you plow it the first year, and the second year you plant it. So they asked, Hey, Kakar, what does the Mishnah mean? Nara Shana Rishana, Ushnia Nara Vizara. What do you do the second year? Do you also re-plow it and then plant it? Dilma Nara Shana Rishana, Ushnia Zara below Nara, or maybe you don't need to plow it the second year. Tashma. Here's a brisa, the Tanya. We have a long brisa, but there's only one point we need from it. Amar Biosi, Afchite Karzayim Ukvar Achim. Even these places called Karzayim and Farachim, Ilmale Samuchos Yerushalayim, if they were close to Yerushalayim, then we would use I've been saying wheat, but of course, in this case, the flour is barley for the Omer, because it's talking about the Omer. Lefish ein mevinus haOmer elamin asados hamudramos, because you only take barley that was grown in the mudramas for like the southern from Daram, for the southern fields, south of Yerushalayim, v'hamenunaros lekach, and those which were plowed for the purpose of this of growing the barley for the Omer. Shebehen chamazarachas, because that's where you get better sunshine on the south south slopes of Yerushalayim. Umehen chamashokas, and that's where the sun sets, which means you'll get southern exposure will give you sunlight all day long, which is better for the barley to grow. Okay, so Bryce goes on. How do you do it? How do you prepare the field? Narashana Rishana, you plow it the first year without planting. Ushnia Choresh Rishana, and the second year you plow it again, and you plow it twice. Actually, you plow it twice. V'zara Kodem Pesach Shivim Yom, and then you plant the barley. Sorry, 70 days before Pesach. So we'll continue with the Brisa, but here's the key point. It says specifically, in the second year, you replow it and then plant. Actually, it says you plow it twice. Kadesh so that why 70 days? Because it'll grow when in a stronger sun. If you plant it, I guess, too early in the winter, it doesn't take root properly, doesn't get enough sunshine. If you do it this way, then you'll get a barley stalk the size of a zeres, which is like a finger length, and shibolis, the ear, the size of two zeres. V'koser miyamar v'dash, you harvest, you gather everything, and you thresh it. V'zora ubara v'tochin marakid, you winnow it, you sift it. I guess borer is it may be more of a manual process where you select the part you're going to grind, and you grind it, you sift it, bring it to the treasurer, and then the treasurer does the test. He sticks his hand in it. If dust comes up in his hand, it needs to be sifted again. Rabbi Nassan had a different test. The Gizbar would dip his hand in oil, and then he would stick his hand in the flour, until he kind of removed the dust would stick to his hand and the flour would fall off. I don't know exactly how that works. Katani yes, okay, but what was the point of bringing this rice? So chorish v'shona, you plow and do it a second time, and then plant in the second year. So Gemara says, "Well, tamech." Okay, so you can try to prove from the brisa. Masnisin lo katani shona. The Mishnah, it's like so far off what the Mishnah is saying. Don't tell me that this brisa is supporting our Mishnah, because the Mishnah doesn't say anything about two plowings. Doesn't say anything about any plowing. So brisa katani shona. And the Brisa talks about it twice. So the Brisa is either, I guess, contradicting the Mishnah, or different opinion than the Mishnah. Don't tell me that the Brisa is illuminating the Mishnah or supporting the Mishnah or explaining to you the Mishnah. So the Gemara says, "Well, that's not a problem. Kan bavuda, kan b'sheina avuda." You know what? What the Brisa is talking about, a field that it's like virgin territory. It had never been cultivated before. So that's why you have to plow it twice in the second year. But if so the Brisa isn't contradicting the Mishnah. It's talking about a different case. Still, we still don't have any clarity about our Mishnah. Do you plow the second year or not? My Havila. So what do we, how do we, what did they end up? Tashma, here's another proof. Titania. Near Chetzia v'Zareya Chetzia. Another brisa says in the first year you plow half the whole field and you only plant half of it, leave the other half unplanted. Near Chetzia v'Zareya Chetzia. In the second year you plow the whole field, and then you alternate. You plant the second half of the field and leave the first half unplanted. Um, so, um, let's see, so from that you can get that in the second year you don't need a preseason plowing. You can just go ahead and plant. Because it was saying, I'm sorry, I said it wrong. It's near Chetzia, you plow only half of it. You don't plow only the half that you didn't plow last year. So from that, it's clear that the second year when you actually plant the stuff, you don't need to plow again. You rely on the plowing of the first year when you didn't plant. Okay, Amar B'Yochanan. Ein Mevinus HaOmer Ela Min Hasados HaMudromas B'Shaberetz Yisrael. You only bring the Omer from south-facing fields. Shebehen Chama Zarachas, Umehen Chama Shakas, because that's where the sun rises and shines. So you get sun all day. Tanya Mehachi of the Brisa like that. Abashal Omer Hayavami Bikas Beis Makla. The Omer barley they would use was from this valley of Beis Makla. Kavasholosh Sayin Haisa. It was about a size field. V'sadar Mudremas Haisa, and it was south facing. Uva Chama Zarachas, Umimel Chama Shakas. So it got sun all day. Near Chetzia v'Zarei Chetzia, in the first year you'd plow half, and plant half. Near Chetzia v'Zarei Chetzia, in the second year um, you plow half and plant the other half. Rav Chilkia Bar Tuvi Havale Karna Da'ara. Rav Chilkia had a corner plot of land. Near Chetzia v'Zarei Chetzia, and he did this. He plowed half and he planted half. Near Chetzia v'Zarei Chetzia, the second year he planted the reverse. V'Avda al Chad Trey, and by doing this he got like double efficiency, like a double yield, I should say, double yield. Um, Umazbin then he would sell the grain as the best flour, the finest flour. So basically, by following the Gemara's prescription, Rav Chilkia did well with his crop. V'im hisli psula, the Mishnah said if it got wormy, then it's not valid for the Omer or for a mincha, the mincha Tana Rabbanan. So must sheislia ruba psula. A flour that most of it became wormy is possible. V'chitin sheisliu rubam psulas, and the wheat themselves, the wheat kernels themselves, if they became majority became wormy, then they're also invalid. By Rabbi Yirmiyah, barov chita or barov salt. What do you mean most of it? You mean most of each kernel, or most of the barrel, the basket, the what do you call it, the bushel? Most of the bushel became wormy. Teku, we don't resolve that. By Rabba, hikdishan. If you take these wormy wheat kernels and you make them, you sanctify them for a mincha. Maush, you designate them basically. Maush yilka alei mishum balmum. Is that considered a balmum? So you're not allowed to you're not allowed to make a balmum hekdesh, and if you do, that's a lav, and you get malchus. So do you say the same thing about the flour? That's wormy. Is it considered a balmum? Kevan de pasul, since it's pasul kebalmum davi. It's the same rule as a balmum because it's a invalid. Now it's invalid as a as a carbon. Or maybe you're stretching the concept. The concept of balmum only applies to an animal, and this is not an animal. This is wheat. Teku. We don't resolve that either. It's not an Hassan. We have a Mishnah. Um, any wood that you find a worm in it, pasul gabi mizbeach, can't be used for wood to burn on the mizbeach. Amar Shmuel l'shanu alalach. That's only like fresh wood that's still damp. Alayavesh, but dry wood, garurova kasher. You scrape out the wormy section, the rest is okay. I guess presumably, an infestation can be assumed if it's still fresh, but if it's dried already, then you find a worm in it, you assume that the worms have, I don't know, died or whatever, and this you can just scrape out, and the rest of it you can assume is okay. By Rava, Hikdisho, if you take wood that's wormy and you make a hekdesh mashiach called mishum balmum, same question. Is this a balmum kind of thing and it's prohibited, you get malchus or not? Kevin de pasil to balmum, same question. Because we say it's invalid, so do we treat it just like a balmum? Dilma, maybe balmum, the concept applies only to an animal. Teku, again, we don't resolve it. Next Mishnah. Tekoa alpha l'shemen. The oil from Tekoa. Tekoa is region south of Yerushalayim, in the Judean hills. That's the alpha site for oil, for growing olives for oil. Abba Shalom, the second best place, Regev Be'er Yarden. It's a place called Regev on the other side of the Jordan River. Kol haratzos hayuksheros, elamikan hayumivin. Really, you could get from anywhere, but this is where the best oil was from, so this is where they brought it from for the mikdash. En mivin lo mibeis hazvalim, lo mibeis hashlachim, v'lo min masha nizra b'neim. You don't bring olives. You don't use oil from olives from a fertilized field or an irrigated field, and not from olives that grow where there's other things planted between the trees. Vim heavy, but if you do use those kosher, it's still okay. And vim unpicoton, we don't use oil that's called this unpicoton oil. Gemara will explain what that means, what it means. Vim heavy, if you did kosher. And mevin min agargarin shenishru b'mayim. We don't bring olive from like the olive berries that were soaked in water. In other words, they weren't fully ripened. V'lo kavushim, v'lo shlukim. You can't make oil from pickled olives or from boiled olives. Maybe, but if you did fossil, that's like really not good oil to use, even meat the b'diavad. So the Gemara is going to talk a little bit about Tekoa. Vayishlach Yoav Tekoa, vayikach misham isha chachama. Yoav sent word to Tekoa, and he brought a isha chachama, a wise woman. This was after the story of Amnon and Tamar, where Amnon raped his half sister Tamar, the children of David HaMelech. and Avshalom killed Amnon, and David HaMelech exiles Avshalom. So Yoav wanted to kind of reconcile everybody. Uh, so so he basically, devised a stratagem with this woman. Mashna Tekoa. So why did Yoav send to Tekoa specifically? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Mitosher Gilin B'Shem Zayis, because the people, there was a lot of olive oil there, and it was good olive oil. So Chacham Behen, that makes people smart. Tana Rabbanan, V'Tova B'Shem and Raglo. At the end of the Torah, where Moshe gives his bracha to Asher, um, he says about Asher, he can dips his foot in oil. Zechel Shel Asher. That's talking about Asher's part of Eretz Yisrael. Shem Moshe Shem and Kamayan. It's good for growing oil. You get a lot of oil there. It's like oil basically comes from a spring. Amru, they said, Pamachas Nisruchu Lahen Anshe Ludkia B'Shemen. When people of Ludkia needed oil, Midohen Pulmustus Echa. They basically got a purchasing agent. Amru, and they said to him, Lech v'yilanu Shem me'ariba. We need 1,000,000 barrels of oil, or $1,000,000 worth of oil. Halach Yerushalayim, so he went to Yerushalayim. Amrlo, Lech L'Tzar. They said, you're not going to find that much oil here. What you want to go is go to Tzor in Lebanon. Halach L'Tzar, he went there. Amrlo, Lech L'Gush Chalav. They're like, you're not going to find that much oil here. Go to Gush Chalav, which is in the Galil. Halach L'Gush Chalav, he went there. Amrlo, Lech Etzel Ploni L'Sadeh Halaz. Ah, you're in the right place. Go to so and so in that particular field, and he'll sell you the oil you need. And he was working the orchard, the olive orchard. Amrlo, he said, Yesh Hashem b'mei ribo sheni sarech. Do you have $1,000,000 worth of oil that I want to buy? Amrlo, hamtin li yeshasai malachti. Yeah, wait till I finish my work day, and then I'll sell you. Himtil yeshasim malachti. Wait until 5 o'clock. Lachar shasim malachto. The guy finishes his work. Hifshol kelev lacharov. He slings his tools over his back. And on his way home, he would be, moving stones aside, clearing things up. Amrlo yesh Hashem b'mei. So the buyer says, okay, do you have $1,000,000 worth of oil or not? I think people are playing a joke on me. You've got this ordinary working guy. He's busy working the fields. On his way home, he's got a huge contract waiting for him at home that I want to buy from him. And he's pushing rocks out of the way. He's taking his time. This is they're making fun of me. Basically, this guy is not going to have $1,000,000 worth of oil to sell me. Came in Shigili, but when he got to the city, Hotzia lo shivchaso kumkum shel chamin. Then his servant came out and brought him some hot water. Varachas boyel v'raglav. He washed his hands and feet. Hotzia lo sefer shel zav m'lei Hashem. And she brought him a golden basin full of oil. V'tavel boyel v'raglav. And so he basically put this as a salve on his hands and feet. As it says, Asher could dip his feet in oil. So now it's looking like, okay, this guy is really a significant player, right? He's not just an ordinary working guy. He's got a servant with a golden bowl, and he uses oil to wash up instead of water. After they ate and drank, Madad lo shemen b'mei aribo. Then he basically took him out back, and he measured out $1,000,000 worth of oil. Amar lo klum ata tzarich liyoser. And he says, "Oh, you only need $1,000,000. I can sell you more." Amar lo, hey, yeah, I could use more. El shemi nidami. I didn't bring enough money. Amar lo, im atarot likach. Kach, if you want, take it on consignment. I'll come with you, and when you get to your bank, when you get home, you'll pay me at home. Paid $1.8 million worth of oil. And Amru, and they said about him, he needed so many, he had to transport all this oil. He rented all the available beasts of burden in the land of Israel to carry this oil. That's how much it was. Then he gets home. Yatsu Anshe Yiro Lakalso. So people came out and they're like, wow, you're a great purchasing agent. You were able to buy all this oil that we needed. Um, Amar Lahem, he said, Lowly Kalsuni, don't praise me, El Shavayim. Praise this guy, the seller, who came with me. Shemad Li Shem Ribo. He gave me $1 million worth of oil. Vaharai no shabi b'shmona asrei ribo. Um, and he's waiting for payment for you know for the extra 180,000 mana. Yes, mis asher ve'ein kol misroshesh v'hon rav. There's, as it says, I think it's in Mishlei. Yeah, Mishlei. A person can be rich. Um, ve'ein kol. He can behave like he's rich, but he has nothing. Misroshesh v'hon rav, or the person can behave like he's poor, like this guy who had basically worked all day as a manual labor, but he had great wealth. Great. Okay, that's the end of that story. Ain Mavine. Okay, we'll stop here actually and pick it up here tomorrow. Yeah. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.